National Monument. And very happy to see all you faces here for July 4th. A special day for this nation, a special day for all of us here. Whether you are a citizen, a permanent resident, a visitor, it is a special time in any country when one celebrates its independence and its own ability to govern itself in the way they see fit. And we're always happy to have all of those that would be here to share in that commemoration celebration here as well. And in many ways, because the forward direction of the United States is very much in the welcoming of all. We are in many ways a country of immigrants that have come together in their own self-governance and determination. So we're very happy to see everyone that would join us here today in that same spirit. It is a special year again for us as well, for the intent and purpose of today's program. It is an amazing year to be here at Fort Monroe, and we're going to be talking a lot about what those intents and differences and unique positions are as we go forward through this morning. But before we get into that, I'd like to ask all of us to stand, and men to remove your hats and or render the appropriate hand salute. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance while we then lower the flag to half-staff and the 188th observance of the death of President James Monroe, to be followed by a brief moment of silence. So, very much.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This year, 2019, holds many purposes for this particular spot and piece of land. And you may have seen in the press, you may have seen on our social media and our websites and other publications, what the main focus that we are looking at this year. And it is an extremely significant one to this particular nation and peoples all over the world and across this country. And it is a recognition of an extremely significant event that took place on this soil in 1619, the arrival of the first enslaved Africans to English North America. The English being the colony that founded this piece of land colony that we now call Virginia, but also the birth of this individual nation from the English crown long ago. But it is that arrival of that whole third group of people that would join in 1619 the English and the American Indian here in this new land, forming the basis and the beginnings of that true multicultural society that we now live in today, with representatives from every corner of the globe, every faith, every language, all kinds of belief structures and personal cultural habits are found within the United States today, 400 years later. And that we embrace and celebrate our uniquenesses and changes in the United States of all peoples and all states under their own ability to self-govern within their state constitutions. And everyone has the freedom to worship and believe and live within those bounds of laws as they see appropriate and fit. And it comes back to that troubled beginning, the beginnings of what is slavery in the United States, where an entire group of people from Africa, the western coast of Angola, without their choice and by force and real bias and all those things that get into it bring this group of people, these Africans, to these shores, the 20 and odd, that would begin that dark period of our American history that is slavery. But it has with it the positive side of what it does with that multicultural nature. They bring with them their language, their beliefs, their cultures. 1,500 languages are spoken in the African continent, and that deep, rich, ancient civilization of which those 20 and odd came from brought that wealth that started that seeds of interconnectivity that we now are bearing the fruits of through the complexities of how and why that started. So it does enrich us as a nation, and we can't lose sight of the unexpected side of that tragic event and what it means. But there are plenty of programming this year that will look at the legacies and the histories of those events. Today's program is going to be focusing a little bit more about the other significant year that happens here in 2019, which is the bicentennial of the construction of Fort Monroe, the fort that's behind me that we're sitting within, the largest masonry fort in the United States. Construction begins in May of 1819, and this is an opportunity for us to pause on the independence of our nation to look at this largest structure and what it means within the confines and contextualization of this year as well, with the significance of the African experience and history that's a part of American history in this country as well, and how those two have a connection to that significant event. I want to bring the welcome and thanks from not only the National Park Service and the Fort Monroe Authority and the Casemate Museum, the Executive Director of the Fort Monroe Authority, Glenn Oder, as well as the Park Superintendent, Terry E. Brown. Both extend their welcome and thanks for your taking your time out of your holiday to join us this morning. They had events that were preventing them from being here, and so asked me to bring that message on their behalf. And that they are very glad that you've taken this opportunity to stop and join us for today's commemoration. But on top of that is the other significance of our intention today, and it is the 188th observance of the death of President James Monroe, the man who authorized the construction of this fort, with whom it is named in honor of, at a cost that would be well over $1 million in 1820s money. It is a significant undertaking. As I said, the largest fortification in the United States, and it is a symbol of freedom and national defense through many of the amazing stories we have. But I'd like to invite my good friend, Mark Walsh from the James Monroe Memorial Foundation to give us a little bit more about those connections. So if you would, please help me welcome.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Morning.
I represent the third partner in this undertaking, that is the James Monroe Memorial Foundation. And on behalf of our president, Bill Monroe, let's start that over again. On behalf of our president, Bill Thomas, I bring you greetings of our foundation. A lot going on, absolutely true. And just as an aside, in 1619, the city of Henricus began its tobacco plantations. Virginia tobacco was so good that by 1683, the Hudson's Bay Company, that British fur trading concern, was buying Virginia tobacco and not Brazilian tobacco because it was so much milder and the Native Americans preferred it.